struggling for some sort of independence and some sort of recognition.
Music pumped through Marvin Gaye like blood through his heart. It was life itself, never a thing to fake or dress up. Yet 5 famous names stood on a forbidden list he kept in silence. Diana Ross headed that list because she once choked the creativity inside his own studio. The other 4 each built a different kind of cage. One loved total control. One grabbed every spotlight. One wore the title of genius, yet felt like chains. The last was so mighty that Marvin feared he would vanish beside him. This roster never appeared in any glossy magazine, but today we crack it open. Marvin's no was never petty. It guarded the very core of the soul. Behind those dreamy love songs were 5 people Marvin Gaye refused to share stage with. The first deep wound came from Motown boss Berry Gordy. Gordy once purred, "Just sing and let the girls scream." The words sounded kind, yet Marvin felt icy steel clamping his voice. That line drew a border between a money machine and a man with a living soul. Years later, Marvin recalled writing What's Going On and feeling trapped in a glittering cell. Gold sparkled, fame gleamed, freedom vanished. He longed to sing of war, wounded soldiers, hard streets, and lost hope, but Gordy waved it away. "This isn't hit material. No one wants protest songs," he snapped. Detroit, winter 1970. Marvin sat alone in his car outside Motown. Snow dusted dim streetlights while a beige coat hugged his shoulders. A notebook on the seat showed the line, Father, we don't need to escalate." It was not written for charts. It was a cry for his brother back from Vietnam, eyes adrift and heart unsure. It was for children beaten in the streets. It was for Marvin himself, smiling outside yet empty inside. He no longer wished to be Motown's polished prince. He wanted to be Marvin, a black artist who could feel blood and hope in the same drumbeat. Gordy read that dream as danger. Motown ran like a strict factory. Working with Gordy was like living in a dream someone else wrote for you. Marvin sighed. Clothes, steps, interviews, even smiles came from a rule book. But grief over Tammy Terrell's death, his brother's trauma, and harsh police crackdown squeezed him until only raw music could bring breath. One night, he slid into the studio unseen by Gordy. Veteran jazz players joined him. In days they crafted What's Going On, blending soul, jazz, funk, gospel, and pain. He sang for life, not radio. Gordy heard the tapes and erupted, unmarketable. No release, no push. Marvin refused to record another note unless that song hit stores. A black performer challenging Motown's king was unheard of, yet Marvin stood firm. Motown finally gave in. The single stormed the charts and became his biggest seller. The album followed and exploded old ideas of soul music. Marvin won, but the victory cut deep. Gordy never forgave the escape. Their smiles at press events masked an icy gulf. Marvin later told Friend, "He no longer saw me as a Motown singer. I think he felt betrayed, but I was just trying to survive." This clash was bigger than 2 men. One era softened black music to soothe markets. The next era shouted raw truth. Love ballads met songs that dared to question the nation. Marvin did not resent Gordy's power. He resented the hush that power demanded. To outsiders, it seemed a simple work fight. To Marvin, it felt like a silent blade from a place he once called home. For real music, he paid in loneliness. Many black artists still carry that cost when they sing without trimming their message. Now step into the cold air of a Los Angeles studio. The engineer said the room felt like a hospital ward. Marvin lounged in a corner, smoke swirling above him. Diana Ross stood tall, headphones tight, eyes locked on empty space. A thick glass wall and total silence separated them. Gordy dreamed that the album Diana and Marvin would launch a new pop era. Behind the microphones, that dream shattered. Diana lived by discipline. Every breath had to be perfect. As a black woman in a sharp business, she clung to flawlessness. Marvin, after What's Going On, rejected every frame. Some mornings he strolled in late. Some he skipped. Some he arrived in casual clothes, carrying a lit herb. He sang pure feeling. That freedom rattled Diana. They almost never recorded together. One finished and left. The other came later. Engineers stitched the tracks by craft, not shared spark. Two flames never burned the same way. Studio whispers raced. "They don't breathe the same air," an assistant muttered. Diana fought for control. Marvin kicked down fences. She could not find solid ground beside him. He felt caged when she asked for one more retake. He walked out without a word. No shouting, no surrender. The tension seeped into every pause while staff watched in silence. Motown only cared that a record came out. In late 1973, the album hit stores and sold well. "You're a Special Part of Me" spun everywhere. Yet insiders knew the secret chill. Those sweet duets hit a frozen gap. Success did not erase the scar. At parties, Marvin, soaked in applause, yet still heard Gordy's warning echo. He smiled for cameras and searched every corner for truth. Friends saw the shift. Sharp suits turned loose. Bright eyes turned distant. Asked if fame tasted sweet, he whispered. "Only honest notes taste sweet." That odd answer guided every step. His stand encouraged younger singers. Radio, once afraid of heavy themes, now played protest tracks all day. The public craved the realness. The industry stayed wary. Away from the lights, his marriage sagged. He told a friend, "When the songs keep me up all night, family life fades." He spoke with weary honesty, not pride. Promoters begged for soft love tunes. Marvin refused. He mixed protest and romance in one show. Critics called it messy. Fans cheered. He judged a set by the hush before applause. When silence fell like a stone, he knew truth had landed. Mixing sessions with Diana turned into slow battles. She replayed one phrase until pitch perfection. Marvin nodded once and stepped outside for air. Engineers later joked it was like sewing silk to leather. Even lunch felt cold. Two plates placed at separate tables, no raised voices, yet the gap roared like drums. Diana chatted about perfect album photos. Marvin joked with drummer about singing in darkness. Two planets spinning in one room. The record climbed charts and reporters rushed in. Diana praised Marvin's tone. Marvin praised her work ethic. Cameras captured smiles yet missed the iceberg below. In private, Marvin wrote lyrics about masks and distance. He titled the draft Glass Walls, but never recorded it, wary of another storm. Despite the frost, he never trashed Diana. He saw her need for perfection in a world ready to judge her every move. She never mocked his wild drive for freedom. Their divide showed two survival paths clashing under one roof. Marvin often wondered if songs would be flawless and wild together. He hunted that middle path until the end. Some listeners say he found it in later albums where smooth melodies rapped rough truths. The engineer's confession lands like a thunderclap. Every time Diana left the studio, Marvin would come in and vice versa. No one said it, but everyone knew they avoided each other. That single line peeled back the velvet curtain on a duet that was never a duet at all, exposing a hidden chill that filled every inch of that expensive studio. Instead of a blazing love song, Diana and Marvin became a gorgeous illusion, a glossy poster selling a Motown fantasy that never drew breath. David Ruffin exploded into view with My Girl and The Temptations. Marvin was a surgeon of sound, counting every breath and graceful hand wave. David was a cyclone, dancing, kneeling, screaming, pulling every eye as if applause were oxygen. David always overdid it, not to please the audience, but to make everyone see he was superior to me, Marvin later admitted. Musicians backstage felt the air sizzle like live wire before a storm. Inside Motown, the question of top vocalists floated like a ghost nobody dared name. Smokey offered romance. Levi Stubbs roared with raw power. Yet Marvin and David towered above the rest like twin mountains, each casting the other in shadow. Managers, drunk on ticket sales, kept pairing the two men, turning every share bill into a quiet contest. A technician remembered. Every time they were about to step on stage, the air was freezing. No one argued, but you could feel the dislike. It was as clear as the bass in Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Even the stage lights seemed nervous. One Detroit night, Marvin lit the room with Ain't That Peculiar? The crowd leaped like sparks. Before the cheers cooled, David marched out unannounced and thundered, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. It felt like he tried to erase the entire previous set. Marvin stood stunned. Both men came from streets the history books forget. Poverty, thick prejudice, and the choking air of 1960s America pushed them to sing for survival. Marvin told reporters, "I'm not fighting David. I'm fighting this world. The world that once told me someone like me would never make it on the radio." David battled the same beast, muttering, "They don't remember my name. They just say the guy who sang my girl. I have to do everything not to be forgotten." Their wounds matched, yet that mirror created rivalry. In 1970, a television rehearsal became a glacier. David rolled in 2 hours late. Marvin, polished and punctual, cracked. "We'll want to do a solo act now." David smirked. "If I did a solo, at least people wouldn't fall asleep." The silence that followed hurt worse than any punch. From that day, they stopped sharing tables, dressing rooms, even greetings. Professional goodwill froze solid, never thawing. When David Ruffin died in 1991, Marvin did not shed public tears, yet he slipped into haunting quiet. A friend recalled Marvin whispering, "He sang with everything he had." Sometimes that's what makes people leave too soon. He knew they were neither enemies nor friends, just two wounded meteors blazing to the same dark sky. The real villain was a business that allowed only one black voice to echo loudly at a time. If the platform had been wider, maybe those voices could have risen together. Marvin carried that wish in his chest, aching for a world where David might have handed him the mic so they could shout the same pain in harmony. Marvin Gaye despised lectures, especially from Norman Whitfield, Motown's master builder of hits. Whitfield loved to preach about perfect choruses and bulletproof hooks. Marvin craved open space. These two giants admired each other's genius, yet every meeting was a thunderclap because neither would bow. Whitfield believed Marvin dreamed too wildly. Marvin believed Whitfield strangled feeling with formulas. Sparks flew like bright metal every time they drew close. "Marvin, listen to me." That command made Marvin's shoulders stiffen like stone. Whitfield was no lightweight. He turned the Temptations into psychedelic prophets with "Papa was a Rolling Stone," "Ball Confusion," "Cloud 9." He dragged soul music into deeper, darker oceans. But Marvin rejected puppet strings. Early 1970, Whitfield played a demo and boasted, "This is going to be your next big thing. Rock-influenced layered bass. A hypnotic hook. Trust me, this is a hit." Marvin folded his arms and listened and murmured, "I don't see anything in it. No soul." Whitfield exploded. "Don't you see I'm paving the way for you to move forward? Do you want to destroy everything we built?" Marvin answered with a cold smile that could freeze fire. He would pave his own road. After that meeting, they no longer sat in the same room. Studio corridors echoed with rumors, each whisper louder than the last. Yet the two men carried on, determined to protect their separate visions. Their paths crossed again at award shows, eyes meeting like wary soldiers, yet the unspoken tension still sparked. Across all these clashes, one truth blazes. Marvin Gaye refused any cage. Whether with Diana, David, or Norman, he fought to keep the pulse of his music alive. That fierce insistence cost him comfort, caused rifts, yet carved masterpieces the world still treasures. Two musical giants locked horns, and neither blinked. One vowed to drag Motown into a fresh, modern groove. The other fought to pour raw feeling into every lyric. "He treated me like a child," Marvin told a close friend after a heated clash in Studio 3 at Hitsville, Detroit. Another silent collision arrived in Los Angeles during the early 80s. Marvin walked out a private meeting room, leaving astonished stares behind as Quincy Jones' polite laughter trailed off. Quincy had offered the chance of a lifetime, an album together. He had just crafted Off the Wall and was gearing up for Thriller. Marvin didn't reject the offer aloud. He simply shook hands and left, as though the door marked another life he refused to enter. Quincy was an architect of sound. He stacked beats and strings like floors in a shining tower, measuring every breath. Marvin, in contrast, closed his eyes, slipped on headphones, and sang as if the clock were seconds from zero. No timetables, no neat blueprints. Quincy's proposal glowed with goodwill. He pictured lush strings, jazz-kissed drums, Marvin's whispery power, a perfect fusion of order and instinct. He believed he could guide Marvin without muting that wild spirit. But Marvin didn't want to be guided. After the meeting, he told a confidant, "Quincy is a genius, but too many layers, too perfect. I believe in chaos, songs that must be sung before they are even written." By then, Marvin produced, arranged, and mixed alone deep into the night. Quincy might have ruled the studio throne, but Marvin needed open skies, not a crown. Critics whispered Marvin feared Quincy's schedule, yet fear wasn't the real gap. Philosophy was one man trusted structure, the other trusted surrender. Quincy later explained, "I wanted Marvin, but Marvin didn't want producers. He was a producer. I couldn't keep up with his chaos." Quincy could navigate any storm. He just refused to sail without a map. So the dream duet vanished without anger, without harsh words, only a soft closing door. Fans mourned the lost masterpiece, picturing Marvin polished to the video age, less lonely, more glittering. Marvin rejected that mirage. He belonged in dim rooms with a rusty mic catching a restless sigh. Meanwhile, Quincy soared. He crafted Thriller, rewrote music history, and never forgot Marvin. At a quiet party, he described him as the most beautiful ghost music ever had. When Marvin died in 1984, Quincy sent white flowers with a tiny card. There was nothing wrong with the way you heard the world. No secret tapes, no half-finished tracks. Only imagination left to roam forever. Marvin Gaye refused every cage. He pushed beyond Motown's sparkle, clashed with Diana Ross's demand for control, battled David Ruffin's constant quest for center stage, sparred with Norman Whitfield's iron formulas, and slipped past Quincy's perfect blueprint. To casualize these fights looked like ego, yet at the core they were a lifelong stand for honest sound over market rules. Marvin's greatest victory lay in each fearless no hurled against the industry's biggest names. Sometimes that brave refusal birthed music, so truthful the world had to hush and listen.